Scott, thank you very much. Is that a little too loud? About right? Maybe just turn that down a bit. I appreciate Tanner Jones. Tanner's a great guy and a friend of one of our very best friends. And Scott, what you're doing here is extraordinary. Look, just a couple of ground rules. I'm here, as I told Scott, I get to pay attention for most of it. You don't want to see me dozing or texting. If I see you dozing or texting, let me tell you, it's a gift and it's a curse. I think it's mostly a curse. But I can see when someone's dozing. And let me tell you, when you go to the Harvard Business School, if someone's dozing, you got to be prepared for about a 20-minute lecture on whatever's going on that you missed. So please don't give me the opportunity because I'll take it. So you've all been warned. Okay, everyone just raise your hand and say, I'm with you. If you're here, going to be here, this is not about what I'm saying. This is going to be about what, as you know, the Spirit whispers to you, which is not only for religious situations, but it's for things in life. You might get a prompting here today that helps determine your future, helps determine where you're going to go. Now, just to start things off, how many out there think they're pretty effervescent, pretty bubbly, pretty bold in being able to sing, speak, whatever? Come on, raise those hands. I want to get them up there. All right, now, I need one brave soul very quickly. Raise those hands one more time. Anyone sing? Anyone sing? This gentleman right here, come on up here. I want you to get up here and put a tune on for us. Bolted. Now, here's the deal. What's your name? Say again. Ralph? Okay, Ralph. You're going to demonstrate a point to. Now, Ralph, they're going to give you the most, well, if you belt it out there, which I know you are, whatever it is, okay, just absolutely go for it, okay? No holding back, okay? Whatever do you do, it doesn't matter if you're off tune, doesn't matter if you get the word, but this is all about enthusiasm. This is all about getting out there, okay? Can you do that?
Just a couple bars.
Just a couple bars? You keep going, I'll cut you away. And then when he's done, let's give him the, well, assuming he belts it out there. If you get 2 thumbs up, he's really belted it. 1, he's belted it like this. 2 like this, we have to take his life. Now, I don't think that's legal, so you've got to help us in belting this baby out, okay? Boom. Come on, like. I'll tell you a little bit more about Cafe in a moment, but this is a free milk card for Ralph. Give it up for a man who's not afraid. I love it. Point number 1, and if I'm a little loud, good. Point number 1 is you cannot be timid. You cannot be afraid. Can you turn that down just a little bit? We're going to kill people in here. You cannot be afraid. Of all the qualities that you're going to need to succeed, you need lots of qualities and abilities. And most of you, if not all of you, have most of them, if not all of them. But you need boldness. And you cannot be afraid. And enthusiasm, you've got to have enthusiasm for whatever it is you're going after. Because if you don't have those things, the backbone, the enthusiasm, the energy, the drive, then you are not going to succeed. But if you have those things, nothing will stop you. Nothing. There's a little saying that, failure is not fatal and success is not final. A little spit there. What I would remind you of is, please, whatever the case is, keep going. Keep going. That is the success. Muhammad Ali, for those of you that were into boxing a little bit, Muhammad Ali was one of the greatest, maybe the, if not for sure the greatest all-time heavyweight fighters in the world. And as he said, it's not how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get back up. Now you're here because you want to be entrepreneurs. Being an entrepreneur is not easy. Scott, is it tough to find a concept that has all the dimensions?
It's really tough.
It's really tough. You know, sometimes it looks great, but the costs don't work out. Sometimes it's great, but it's too early. Might be great, it's too late. Might be great, but you can't make money. Might be great, but the demand's just not there. Or, oftentimes, it's phenomenal, and you just blow it, or we blow it. We don't execute well enough. You don't execute, it doesn't matter. So I really appreciate, again, Ralph singing. Let me tell you just something about Cafe Rio. We talked about this. I believe we did it for a period of time. I've never in my life taught someone to smile. Now, let me just put it in perspective. I've had the opportunity as the Chief Operating Officer of Taco Bell. For those of you that have ever eaten a cheesy gordita crunch, I named that product. So when you bite into that, just think Bob, you know? I eat them all the time. We worked on that. Someone remind me. I want to tell you a little bit about, hey, good to see you. I want to tell you a little bit about Taco Bell, okay? Just remind me to tell you about how we define the reality of that situation. Even though that's not an entrepreneurial, that's a bit larger, there's a concept or a lesson there that's very valuable. So, what were we talking about, Scott?
We were talking about how hard it is to start a business.
Okay, it's very hard. You've got to have drive. So, Cafe Rio, I've never taught anyone how to succeed or how to smile. We've had, in restaurants that I've been involved with, Taco Bell, we had, about 200 or so thousand employees. In fact, one of the ways that we succeeded in turning around a horribly bad business was in reducing the turnover, stabilizing the teams. We used to turn over about 450,000 people. You imagine that? That's enormous. And so what I also learned working with those people at Burger King, we had 11,000 outlets around the world. I was the worldwide president. We probably had 400,000 employees. Never taught one person to smile. So what do you do? If you can't teach someone to smile and they're on the front counter, what do you do? Help me, someone. This is going to be very interactive. So come on, what is it?
Hire somebody that has a smile.
Oh, come on. Thank you. Say that again.
You hire somebody that has a smile.
Right. You get someone that can smile. If you look, I love our dishwashers. I started out as a dishwasher. And I could smile too, but if you get a guy, a woman, man who can't smile out front, you're never going to teach them. Or if you put that really bubbly person back behind the dishes, that might not be the best use of talent. You never know. Let me just dive in here. This is what my nephew, bless his heart, entrepreneur, leader, executive, investor. I'm not sure who we're talking about, but sounds pretty good. Let me just give you a sense, a little bit of the experience that I've had, and then I'm going to tell a couple of stories, but I really want this to be interactive, okay? I want to know what's on your mind, so please get your questions ready. I was raised in Utah. I grew up there, Highland High, University of Utah. By the way, I love BYU. Big round for the Y. You love the Y? I love the Y. I've got a daughter who's attending here right now. I've got a son. We've got another son who wants to come down here. We love it down here. I graduated from the Y, and I got my degree. I got a job with Procter & Gamble. Really fortunate. I learned a ton about sales management. I then went to Harvard. But let me tell you just a little bit about Harvard, and this applies to everything that you are going to find out about being an entrepreneur. I didn't just start to Harvard. I had pretty good grades. I had good grades. I had good experience. I was an assistant on the mission. I'd had some leadership experience. I finished my schooling, and I went and I took the GMAT. Who knows what the GMAT is? Okay, I hope all of you. If you're interested in business, you should understand that. Note to self. I went in, Scott, I walked in, I thought, I can do this. And so I went and took the GMAT without any preparation. I got my results back, and honestly, it was one of the saddest, most horrific, horrifying days of my life. If I told you my grade, you'd probably kick me out of here.
Well, go ahead and tell them.
I can't even remember. I've tried to erase it from my memory. It was so bad, I remember thinking, and if anyone's a janitor, or dad or mom's a janitor, I love janitors, but I thought, that's going to be my chosen career. I'm going to be doing janitorial work in schools. I could see myself pushing the broom, and I thought, oh my heavens. I failed in that, right? Failure is not final. Success or failure is not fatal. Success is not final. But let me tell you what happened. I got the job at Procter, and it was not through a resume. You need a resume, but the way you're going to have and get inside with people is your network, your mentors, your contacts, your hustle. You're preparing and learning everything you can about that organization. You have got to differentiate yourself. No one gets in with a resume, do they?
No.
No. You need one, but mostly they're good for starting fires. And some of them aren't even very good at that.
That's kindling.
Okay? But the fact of the matter is, you've got to build this network, so start building it now. Build it with Brother Peterson or Professor Peterson.
No, that's brother.
Okay, brother. President Peterson. Right? That is so critical. I can't emphasize enough how critical. So someone knew me. She was a fairly high-ranking woman at the business school, very high-ranking. She was my next-door neighbor. She loved me. She thought I was pretty good. And so she got me an in on the Procter & Gamble list interview. Then the guys at Procter that came, and they were guys, they were men, and guys generic, just for you ladies here that wonder if I use that, they basically said, okay, we look for someone that's got ability. We check, one of the ways we check that is their grades. The other thing is, these guys didn't know anything about the church, so they said, okay, look, if someone's been an assistant, someone's thought pretty highly of them. Now, I had the opportunity to be an assistant. I was a mission president, had many assistants. Look, you choose your assistants carefully. So they've already screened hundreds to find one or two. And so for them, it was a screen. So with this referral, with this reference, with good grades, and that HBS, or excuse me, with the help me here, with my GPA, we're going to get there. It's been a long morning here. With my GPA, my grades, recommendation, and the mission, they took a very close look at me. I got the job, okay? And then I went to work selling toilet tissue, disposable products for women, paper towels, and diapers. Now that wasn't that exciting, but I'll tell you, the learning was absolutely phenomenal. But I still wanted to go get an MBA. So what did I do? I went back to work. I got really focused on this thing. I went to a Kaplan course, took the GMAT, took it over, studied like crazy, worked my guts up, practice exams, etc. And then I went back in, and I'll never forget, I was driving up from southern Utah with my dad, and believe it or not, I was able to lift my score so much. I said, Dad, I can get into a good school. I went from not being able to get into a school into, I was accepted, I got into UCLA. I got into Wharton. I got into Northwestern. All these I was a guy who couldn't get in anywhere. But I said, I'm not going to let that get me down. Forget it. All of you are going to fail at something. If not, get ready because it's coming. But you do not sit down. You do not cry or whine. You get back to work. You toughen up. You let that, someone said you can either use the oxygen to blow out a candle, or Larry Gelwick's, one of the greatest coaches in high school rugby ever, as he said the other night, that can be a flame that can fan a fire and just create heat in that fire. Just think of that visual. Is that failure going to be something that's just going to be a blow out your candle and take the light away from you, or is that going to be just oxygen on your fire? For me, it was oxygen on my fire. I got into all these schools, and then my mom said, "You need to go to Harvard." I'm like, "Mom, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I couldn't get into any school. I've been accepted." These other. She put that challenge to me. And so guess what? I stayed on another year. I put on hold the other, and I applied to Harvard. I'll never tell you the thrill when it said, "It is our great excitement," or whatever, "to inform you you've been accepted to the Harvard Business School." What an amazing experience. For me, a personal, just being able to overcome that challenge was extraordinary. And it made all the difference in my life. I went, I studied hard, I worked, got a job at Bain as an assistant, as a consultant between first and second years, went back. That's one of the toughest jobs to get there. Great company. I went back to my 30th reunion, 40th high school this last year, 30th reunion at Harvard. We had people that are leading artificial intelligence for the world. You know, all of the comic book, what do we call all of those, Jen? What? Marvel. One of our business class people had done, he said, this guy was really kind of a goofy guy. Seriously, I love him, but he was as goofy as they come. All he loved was comic books. That's in business school. But he did the Marvel, all of those movies. The concept, the work, the money, you know, Tony Stark's his guy. So let me tell you, it's amazing. We had another guy who's written many best-selling books. So amazing things happened through that whole thing. But I really learned about being successful is moving forward and not letting those failures stop you. So please, whatever the case is, don't lay down, get up and get back to the fight. Okay, I want to move a little quicker into a couple of things. I want to just talk about an experience. Let me go to Cafe Rio for a moment. I'd worked all over the world at various positions with Yum Brands. I was a chief operating officer. We talked about that. I was head of 1,000 restaurants in the South Pacific. I ran Australia, New Zealand, and I ran Africa, about 300 restaurants. This was really exciting because I got to be a general manager at a very young age. Not that much older than many of you here. I was in my very early 30s when I was running pretty large businesses because they're overseas. And it was a phenomenal experience. So I did all of those things, and then, you know, after 13 years, I decided, and I took a job at Burger King. Suffice it to say, they laid out so much money and so many options. I left Yum as one of the most senior executives there, handful of the biggest guys on KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell, to be president of Burger King. And it just, let me put it this way, there's so much money, and I just couldn't say no. I will tell you this, looking back, we talk about the spirit and promptings. And conference yesterday was a very large portion of it was on ministering. To me, that's what our prophet really got to. I don't know if you took that away too, Scott. It was about ministering to others, and it was hugely focused on inspiration, the Holy Spirit. Well, I will tell you that I challenged the Holy Spirit when I took that job to Burger King. They offered me millions of dollars as a salary, with salary and bonus. The target incentive was $50 million through stock options on running this thing. The truth is, did it pay out? Well, in the 5 years after that, it wound up being about $120 million. Now, the sad thing is, or the good thing, in my opinion, the good thing is, I was not around for it. 1 year, thereabouts, I absolutely hated this job. I loved my 13 years with Yum, the association, the extraordinary experience. But I was miserable. I didn't like the people I worked with. Some of them were I loved a lot of them, but for the most part, it was a really rough, filled with animosity environment, nasty turnaround. And I remember sitting there, and I got a prompting that something big was going to come the next day. Well, suffice it to say that the number one and the number two had a falling out. And my sister hadn't heard about it, but it was like a 2x4 through my head that said, wham! I was just taken out. My sister heard it on Paul Harvey. Who knows who Paul Harvey is? He still around?
The rest of the story.
The rest of the story. Big national commentator that he said, and the president of Burgersign has abruptly resigned. My sister said, that's my brother. I wonder what happened. Suffice it to say, I got knocked down again. But I'd also had tremendous success at Yum and turned around a business in Australia, turned around Taco Bell in an extraordinary way. We don't have time to go into too much of that, if any of it today. But then I just got clobbered. I took a year off, and we traveled a little bit of the world. We went to Africa, where we had lived for 18 months, loved it. International affairs, international travel. Boy, do as much as you can. You get the greatest education. Jen, wasn't it awesome? Jen's lived, she was born in Australia. She's lived in Singapore, lived in a bunch of different places. Our kids got to see many of those places. Look, Australia twice, Singapore, Africa, Miami, pretty foreign in some ways, but it was amazing. So I've been knocked off my horse. I had to get up, I had to recover. Okay, well, I got back to it, so I started looking for jobs, and I honestly, I had offers of billion-dollar companies to run them, but I couldn't figure it out. I actually, at one point, I had an offer where my wife just said, you know, I'm going to just walk up here, keep you guys a little bit awake, those that are snoozing. My wife said, I had this job for a great company, given salary, given options, all this stuff. My wife said, well, have fun, I'll come visit you. That was her way of saying what? I'm not going. So she didn't feel it, I didn't feel it, but I listened to the Spirit. Now, we approached Cafe Rio. Everyone wanted a piece of Cafe Rio. 6 stores, they were packed. It was the hottest thing in town, right? So let me tell you what happened. We went in, I met with Steve Stanley, great guy, he was the founder, came from right around in this area, and Steve had just perfected, he has a way of creating, he knows more about creating food that people crave than anyone I've ever met in my life. If we had time, I'd go into the science of it. But so, in any event, I spoke to Steve, they were getting ready to sell, we tried to put an offer together, you'd have heard of Sorensen Capital, Ron Meek and those guys are good friends. It just didn't come together. Anyway, the whole thing imploded. Nothing, nada. We messed it up badly. I thought, oh no, you know, will this opportunity ever come back? Well, what happened is I proceeded on, had to look at some stuff, had to say no. Saying no is one of the most important things. Saying no to jobs, saying no to opportunities, saying no to businesses is probably more important than the ones you say yes to. Because unless you say no to all the stuff that's not good, you're going to miss the one that is the yes, go for it. So here's the answer. This is pretty personal stuff, but I want to share it with you. 1, because I can in this environment, and 2, because I think it'll help you. I was out on the golf course with my dad. And that little voice whispered to me, and this is after the entire Cafe Rio deal had gone bust. There's no discussion. It said, call Cafe Rio. I immediately, I walked over to the side, and I called the attorney. Her name's Mikkel Rowe, who's the daughter of Steve Stanley, the owner, the founder. And I said, Mikkel, it's Bob Nilsen. She said, oh, Bob, so great of you to call. I can't imagine your timing on this. I said, Mikkel, I just want to see what's going on. She said, well, it's interestingly enough, we have just decided to sell Cafe Rio. They were at 5 restaurants and they was getting away from them. They didn't know how to operate multiple concepts. And so she said, some other people, very big concepts and people, are making us an offer. We would love you to throw your hat in the ring. So, wow. The timing, what are the odds of that? They're 1 in billions, in my opinion, that just in that moment of time and history, boom, the Lord was looking after us. He cared. And he spoke to me clearly. So clearly, this is how I know that I can feel the Spirit. It's when I get a thought that is completely out of the pattern of thinking I'm in, that is on something that's important. And I reacted to it. Or I should say, I acted on it. You will either act or be acted upon. So let's act. I acted. Okay, what happened is, this is back to the contacts and relationships. You never know when a prior relationship or contact is going to be of value. In New York, while looking for other opportunities, interviewing, etc., I looked at private equity groups that invest in businesses. I went to one guy who two friends independently said something is great. Now, we know about the strength of independent witnesses, do we not? Bible, Book of Mormon, 2 independent witnesses that established the truth. Well, I had 2 independent witnesses or contacts saying, this guy is really great. And so his name was Alan Karp. I went and spoke to him. And I said, Alan, I'm looking at this little concept. This was way before this happened. It's a really cool concept. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. He goes, great, Bob. I mean, glad I met you. Let's stay in touch. So I called, once I got this thing with Cafe Rio going, I called Alan. I said, Alan, I've got this meeting with these guys that I think have one of the hottest concepts in the country. Will you come and meet me? He goes, yeah, I'd love to. He said, in fact, I am going to be out in LA in a few days. I can pass through Salt Lake on Thursday. I said, perfect. This thing happened, boom, boom, boom. The path was laid. I'm telling you, it was. And next thing you know, Alan and I are in front of Cafe Rio. We made them an offer. They liked our offer better. Honestly, I think the guys offered a little bit of money, but I think Steve thought we would take better care of the people and of the business. And so we got it. It was the fastest closing that they'd ever done, I think Alan told me. That's my best recollection on it. And next thing I knew, I was walking into the basement apartment on 800 North up in Orem in a little kid's office, or below a dentist kid's office. The kids would scream like crazy. You know, it wasn't that the kids were afraid, just so you know, that dentist did some work on me, and he was just beating the crap out of their mouths. Honestly, it was so serious what that guy did to my mouth, but that's another story for another day. Right? I thought of reporting the guy. Torture of children. So whatever the case, I wound up going into this little card tables. Now, you have to put this in perspective, okay? This is the guy who was president of Burger King. I had stayed in the grandest suites, flown on the G5 Gulfstreams. At Taco Bell, I had a Canadair $14 million, about 12-seat jet on call with 3 people to fly. Now, by the way, money you only buy, you only have so many houses, you only eat so much food. Let me tell you, a jet is really cool. If anyone wonders, I'd say, look, I want to go to New York. I'd say pick up some shrimp, I'll get some ribs, right? I would be doing missionary work on the phone at about $1,000 a minute, watching a video. Okay, it was probably a church video, I should say. While I was doing missionary work, eating ribs and shrimp and steak. This is not bad. Now, I was in the middle of one of the ugliest turnarounds in the history of restaurants, so things were not exactly perfect, but suffice it to say, I'm now at a card table below a kid's dentist with 6 restaurants. I'd hit the 5 restaurants in the area, except for the one down in St. George. I'd go, holy smokes, it's like Monday afternoon. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? I had 11,000 restaurants. I'd had thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people in my my area of responsibility. Well, we went to work. Okay, now let me just I'm going to just touch upon this. Okay, role of a leader. We're going to just touch upon this. This is more for the Michael Swenson class tomorrow, but I wanted to share just a couple of things. And leaders got to define the reality. Okay, leaders got to create the vision, Leaders got to build the team. We spend a lot of time on this tomorrow. Establish the culture. Hold people accountable and execute. And then a leader's got to get results. Okay, this is what we adopted at Cafe Rio. This is called the circle. This is called the circle of growth. In whatever entrepreneurial activity, if you get these things right, and especially in the right order, you have a good chance of success, assuming that you've got a great concept or product, that there is demand and can be profitable, right? You have a good concept, good product, it's got to be profitable, there's got to be demand. And then once you set about, and it's all about getting the right people, okay? So we went about establishing a team and building the team. The managers are number one. Let me tell you this. In any activity, whatever you do, take care of your people. The thing I think that defined us is, I can tell you, I loved and still love, we've sold that business, just as a side note, I'll tell you more of that in a moment. The people that were there, the managers in our stores worked their hearts out. You know, we would help them with their kids, and I don't mean to boast, but we would find and send their kids on, take them on scholarships. We'd take over Hogle Zoo and have them bring all of their friends and family. We'd take over Lagoon and say, you know, go over and bring rides. We had holiday parties, Christmas parties. Every year we take manager and spouse or partner or child to Hawaii for a week. You know, so just taking care of those people. If people think you care, don't think, know you care, they stay. If people stay, you build continuity. One of the things, write this down in bold, people and continuity within a business, the continuity of the people is essential to success. Yes or no?
Cannot have turnover.
Turnover kills. The way we turned around Taco Bell is we stabilized. Instead of turning over hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, we stabilized. And then we taught them how to be really good. And once you stay, then they get really fast. And I know I'm jumping around here just a little bit, but at Taco Bell, in terms of speed of service through the drive-thru, which is, it's like catching salmon, you only have a short period of time of which you've got to scoop up all those salmon. And so you've got to have people that are fast and friendly and really good at what they do. 10 minutes, okay. Holy smokes, it goes by fast. All right, for you, I'm sure it goes by slowly, I'm sorry. Okay, so you've got to have great people. Continuity of people. Love your people, let them feel it. Be respectful of them at all times, in all situations, all places. And then secondly, take care of your customers. Our mantra was that every meal was going to be perfect. Every meal a masterpiece. And we structured the line so that it was so that anyone coming through, the manager saw that the meal at the end, always. And so when you do that, your people stay, they take care of your customers. When your customers are happy, it's called frequency. You've got new customers, you've got frequency. And when you get the frequency, they come more often. Okay? When they come more often, it drives sales. When you drive sales, you get controls. You get profit. And unless you make profit, you're dead. Okay? So then the profit rolls around to your ability to invest in people and customers. And so Cafe Rio, we went with one restaurant, a new restaurant, and then we got the first 5. We worked our hearts off. We went to California. It was really tough breaking into a new market. I brought a guy back that I trusted and knew well. We started out in D.C. We failed once, if not twice, maybe even 3 times in D.C. relative to having the right people there. And then we finally got the team, and it took off. And then Chipotle hit the skids, and so all those customers came over, and it took off like crazy. So this business, this little Cafe Rio, 6 restaurants, is about a $19-odd million business, is now on its way to $300 million thereabouts. We sold it to a large private equity group, and let me say once again, on our mission, I met a guy who was the head of a thing called City Barbecue. Fabulous guy. I asked him to invite him to the Tabernacle Choir that was there. We became friends. This large private equity group bought his business. We actually looked to purchase it with Carp Riley, that was my partner there. But they wound up buying it. And then that guy, I am all but certain, that contact and that mission changed our life in so many ways, including business. I am all but certain that he was the one that put that group in that purchased Cafe Rio recently. A lot of the same leaders are there, we're there. I've moved on. So suffice it to say, made a bit of money, which is not bad, but it's not all about the money, trust me. You need it, it creates opportunities, but you need that balance in your life. I love my wife more than anything in the world. I adore my kids. You know, I love the Lord and love the gospel. Now you'd say, what about balance? Is there balance? I don't know. Scott, maybe you found it. But let me tell you, when you're at the Harvard Business School, there is no balance in your life. You know, you're studying. At times, you just have to go for it. And you've got to do your best to get the energy and the support and all of those things around you. Okay? So balance is a relative thing. Just know there are certain times where you got to give a little bit more. But Kath and I always work together to spend good family time, take care of our kids. We traveled the world, did Cafe Rio. We've done these restaurants. We've seen a good part of the world. And now, without going into it, there are about 5 or 6 businesses that I'm involved in. The best donut concept in the world. If I've seen it, look it up, sidecardonuts.com. It's in Costa Mesa and Santa Monica, phenomenal. We've got a phenomenal pest control company that's just killing it. We've got a little technology company. We've got a vending company that we're just purchasing right now and doing a few other things. So, questions for you. I've gone longer. It always goes fast. Let me have them. Yes, sir.
Go into Greenix a little more.
Greenix, pest control company. You all know about summer sales better than I do. It can be a horrible industry. Honestly, our whole thing was saying, look, and I'm not pointing out any specific company, but some it's get the sale at any cost, right? Make lots of money, conspicuous consumption, all this other stuff. You know, and it's quit school because you're going to make so much money. We said, bag that. Look, school's so critical. It's a passport. It's not getting your ticket punch. It's a passport, right? And you need valuable. One thing about summer sales, for those of you that haven't done it, it is the hardest work in the world. If you can get through a summer of summer sales, you have a probability of being successful that just goes way up. Because you've learned how to talk to people, you've learned how to overcome yourself, you've learned how to sell. So ours is all about value, values, ethics, morality, teaching these great young men and women to sell, teaching them life skills, and then establishing the contacts, the network, the mentors to be successful. We've had Larry Gelwicks that just came and spoke to us, one of the best coaches in the world. We had the dean of the University of Utah Business School, and Clark Ivory Homes, the largest home builder for 30 years, that have all come and taught us. We're continuing to do that. So that's Greenix. Our donut, yes, over here.
As a CEO, a big dog in the company, when you went and visited like a small franchise, say like a Taco Bell, how did you have like a one-on-one interaction? Did you like identify your position, and how did that kind of go to motivate the small end individual?
Well, let me tell you, that is a great question. Thank you. Let me put it this way. The teams will have prepared for weeks. They'd have, toothbrushes, scrubbing everything in the universe. This is the biggest thing, to have the president of the company come, and we fly in on a jet. There's kind of a big entourage. Sometimes not, just a side note. The way we defined reality at Taco Bell is we would get into a jet with this great plane. We'd drop in unannounced in jeans or shorts, and then we'd film with hidden cameras our operations all across the country. Then we'd take it back and show them and say, oh, you think that we have a marketing problem? I think we have an operational problem. That was defining reality. But the visits, generally speaking, when we were there, I could, with one word, absolutely just lay waste to a restaurant or almost a city of restaurants. Or I could go up and build up the people, and had to be very, very, very careful about what I said. Because, you say 20 good things and you said one thing that was a little negative, that's what they'd hear. So I would always look, I'd carry watches with our logos, all sorts of things. We gave a little, an award that I carried. Yum was renowned for its recognition culture. I had a flying pig, big bronze flying pig, and I'd give this away. Pig is for people that have done what others said couldn't do, or when pigs fly. So we love the people, we thank them, we built them up, we encourage them, and if we had a problem, we just take care of that on the side. Over here, please. Thank you. Great question. Yes, sir. Yes.
If something needed correction, how would you go about that without completely destroying, deadline waste?
So the question is, when there was a problem, let me just separate it this way. You're going to have lots of problems. As it comes down to employees, you've got really two areas. You've got will and skill. Will is just a desire. Skill is, do they have the skills? And so we'd really look and separate, saying, is this a will problem? They just don't want to, what's the best way to recruit someone? Anyone? There's only one method that I know of that is successful. Okay? Do you look at their smile? Do you look at, how well they sing? Well, you look at those things. Track record. You look at what they have done. Trajectory. If they were in, what did they do in high school? Were they in sports? Did they excel? People establish patterns in church-related things, if that was their thing. If they're gospel-oriented, faith-oriented, did they excel? Did they live it? Educationally, did they excel? The best way to establish how well someone will do is their track record. So what you are all about is establishing track records. So once they're in, hopefully you've got the right people. If not, you've got to get the people that aren't right out. I'm so sorry to tell you. There's only one thing worse. This is back to people and this focus and turnover. What's the one thing worse than not having money in your bank account? Who can tell me? There is one thing worse than that. The one thing worse is thinking you have money in your bank account and not having money in your bank account, right? What do? You act as if you have money, and you don't. Then you're not only in trouble, you're in big trouble. So if you've got people that are poor in terms of their enthusiasm, their quality, their commitment, right? Then you've got a bank account that's not only empty, it's a negative. Will and skill. You can teach someone that has the drive, the desire. If they have the will, we'll always find a way to teach them the skill.
Did you ever use the book Crucial Conversations?
I've not used the book Crucial Conversations, but I know of it, and you just have got to be honest.
Yeah, it speaks to that
right?
question that you just had. It's a great book.
But the key, Crucial Conversation, I've heard great things about it. The simple thing is, look, one thing that I've gotten pretty good at, and it was really hard, is being able to have very open, honest, build people up wherever I can, and we're not, to just say, look, we got to just define reality of this, define reality. That's one of the hard things, but I've had to make really big changes. I had to be part of laying off a CEO of a company just a few days ago. It was heart-wrenching, but we would never go forward with that same person in charge. Okay, time to wrap up. Maybe one last question. Can we do one last question?
One last, yeah.
One last quickly. Yes, gentlemen.
Book recommendations.
Book recommendations. Book of Mormon. Thank you. By far. I read it with my wife every day. And let me say, for those of you that are married, it's the most powerful thing that's happened in our marriage. We read the Book of Mormon and we pray together. We go to bed at the same time. It's life-changing. I draw Doctrine and Covenants section 121 is the best thing on leadership that you'll ever find in your life. Let me leave you with this thought. Okay, you can do whatever you want to do. Dream big. Dare mighty things. But you cannot let failure get in your way. You've got to have this tenacity, this enthusiasm. There's a little poem that I'd learned when I was a boy. It was on our wall. My mother gave us $5 and we'd memorize it. And so I was an entrepreneur then. I was going to learn it. It's called this. Stick to the task until it sticks to you. Beginners are many, but enders are few. Honor, power, and righteous praise will come in time to the one who stays. Stick to the task till it sticks to you. Bend at it, sweat at it, and smile at it too. For out of the bend and the sweat and the smile will come life's victories after a while. Thank you very much. You've been fantastic.